Okay, this is the critical lap. This is the critical lap. Confirm.
Leave me alone. I know what to do.
Daniel, what's up? How you doing, buddy?
Man, it's been such a good day. You have no idea.
What a fantastic day. That's Nico Hülkenberg. I'm sorry, we have to jump straight into the quality stuff here. Some other guy won, I think, but I mean, I'm
yeah,
here for
we
the
don't. Some
German?
guy. Yeah.
Man.
Nico's back, baby. And when I say back, I mean back from GP2 because he did win a series once. He is no stranger to the podium. It's just been 17 years since
just not that podium.
Not that. Well, I mean, maybe that just different event. I don't know if he's won around Silverstone or not. I haven't read through his entire illustrious career.
Right.
Yet.
There are no spoiler warnings for this episode. We're jumping straight into Silverstone. What a race. I'm full hulked out. You know, I tried to find, I literally texted my neighbor. It was like, hey, you guys don't happen to have any of those like big Hulk fists, do you? They're like, no. I was like, darn it.
I mean, there will be some Hulk fists at the next race, whatever that is. What is the next race? Today is just a blur.
One,
and
I am not
in the right form
next.
For any
Belgium,
kind of like
Spa is next.
Okay. Yeah. There's gonna be some green fists in those grandstands for sure.
Yeah, he's getting real close to his home country. Nico Hülkenberg, I'm all hulked out. If you're not on the video format of this, I might have broken out the paint that I used when I was baby Grogu, like baby Yoda for Halloween a couple Halloweens ago. Long story. But I broke out some of that green paint, and I've gone sort of Elphaba from Wicked here with my paint. Got my 2006 German World Cup scarf on. That's all the Nico Hülkenberg stuff I even have, to be honest with you. But yeah, what a race!
I don't have any Nico Hülkenberg stuff yet, unless you consider. I'm trying to think who were the Haas drivers in 2017?
17?
Romain Grosjean. It might have been just Grosjean, K-Mag.
K-Mag, yeah.
Yeah. So
Hülkenberg was still driving for Renault, I think. Those
was
black
it
and
Renault
yellow.
at that point?
I think so. Well, hey, we jump into this podcast, if you haven't figured it out already, you have joined I would say the best, frankly, Formula One podcast in the nation. This is the Critical Lap F1 podcast, and you joined us for a recap of Silverstone, however you want to pronounce that, Silverstone Grand Prix 2025. We're excited to jump in. If you are new to the podcast, welcome. We're glad to have you. Make sure you subscribe, share with a friend. Add a comment. The comments are fantastic. I had a few this week that were great.
Thank you so much for those comments, folks. Keep them coming.
Yeah. If you're coming back, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed the Silverstone Grand Prix, the Great Britain Grand Prix as much as we did. If you haven't, I'm sorry for the spoilers, but you got to get out there and watch it. You should know better by now.
We are not holding back on this episode. There is so much to talk about.
I thought it was hilarious that afterward, during the post-show interview, they interview I forget her name, the gal that interviews people. She said I ran out of paper, like taking notes, because she would write all this stuff down during the race, and then none of it was relevant. Like 5 laps later, I did the same thing for this race. It's going to be a good one.
If you started writing down like when the yellow flags happened, which I did. I was doing my thing, and I was just like, you know what? It's raining. I'm not. We're not. There are going to be so many of these. They're going to be insignificant. Right. Every single one's going to mean nothing to us.
Every few seconds, a yellow flag. Yeah, it was an absolutely chaotic race. I thought it was funny. I wrote down some point at like lap 7 or 8 or something. Oh, like was this strategy going to work for this driver or something? It's like 20 laps later. I was like, what happened to them? Where did they go? Everything just shifted so quickly. There were definitely some winners and losers, but what a race. Do we need to kick this thing off? Let's jump right in. The big changing fluid dynamic. It was literally the fluid dynamics here, and the rain.
The dynamics were very fluid indeed.
They literally started on intermediates because the track was wet, and on the formation lap realized maybe slicks would work, and that was everything. That pretty well set the tone for the rest of the race. Just changing out tires, trying to figure out when and where.
Yeah, honestly, the track was basically 2 separate tracks. even throughout the whole race, it was like, hey, you should have wets over here and intermediates on the rest of it.
Right.
And I think that was kind of the theme that started out. Everybody was like, yeah, we're doing slicks. And then right as you get to the part of the track where it's like, do I go in the pit lane or do I stay out? That's when it started getting really wet. So the people that went into the pit lane to get slicks on weren't really super informed or super aware of how crazy it could be on slicks.
Yeah. I think it was Alex Albon in the post-race interview. He called out that I forget the turns right there, I think near the end, up in those high teen turns, that they never really dried out. There was kind of a low point there. And he called out the Lando Norris grandstands as being like maybe sheltering that from the wind that was drying out the rest of track. So it was just a great, I feel like right off the bat, we've been nicknaming some of these tracks, and most tracks, I feel like a couple haven't really needed a nickname. I don't think this one needs a nickname. I just think it needs a label. And we're just going to call it something like Slippery Stone or like Safety Carston. And we'll just, we'll change the title because it was just cars everywhere, people pirouetting all over the track. If you just want to see some great control, the number of times the driver just did like a 360 or a 720 and then straightened it back out again and kept going, no problem. Yeah.
Great. That would be an interesting highlight reel. Just cars spinning.
Just cars spinning.
Same event, all the cars.
Get that music. All right, let's jump into the winners. Lando Norris pulls out the win. Oscar Piastri in second. And then the one we all really care about, Nico Hülkenberg with his first F1 podium. Third place finish, holding off Lewis Hamilton in fourth. Max Verstappen, ups and downs for him, literally, but he fought his way back up, and we'll talk about that a little later, to fifth place. And then rounding out the top 10, Pierre Gasly in sixth, Lance Stroll in seventh, Alexander Albon in eighth, Fernando Alonso in ninth, and then George Russell, everyone's favorite Mercedes driver, asterisk, in 10th. So points, good points for a lot of teams.
Is the asterisk on favorite, or is it on Mercedes?
I was hoping you wouldn't notice. Hoping you wouldn't notice. Just let that one go.
Is it everyone's except...
Well, you have a hot take. I mean, your belief is that George Russell's time is potentially limited depending on the next moves, but we'll leave that alone for now. All right, Daniel, let's call out some winners here on this race. I gotta give a big shout out first of all to Lando Norris. Major win for him. Home race is always a big one. I think he called out. He had several big like hot take comments before this race that he would trade in his Monaco trophy or all his wins for this kind of win. So big win for him. Big moment. Did you see like at the end, like he went over to like hug his mom, and his mom was like opening the visor of his helmet and trying to see his eyes, but I'm pretty sure he still had his helmet on so that she couldn't see. He was just like crying in his helmet,
just sobbing in his helmet. It was a great moment.
Yeah, she was like, "Let me like open your visor," and I'm like, "Yeah, he's probably in there just an absolute mess." But yeah, he left that helmet on for a long time. It was a big win.
Hey, good for him. Good for him winning. I mean, if your home race is Silverstone, even bigger, right? I don't think that there's a cooler race with better fans that's more significant to the sport just because it's got its roots in Great Britain, you know? So
right.
Good for him. Good for him. And I mean, if he wants to cry, if he wants to, do snow angels in a puddle of rain or something, please, by all means.
Right. Yeah. It was a good moment. He had a good moment there. Everybody flipped out. It did create kind of an interesting moment at the end of the race because the other big winner in that top three is Nico Hülkenberg, and they couldn't figure out where to point the camera. They had to sort of point it at Lando most of the time because he's an English driver. He's a big name. He's got his own grandstand, right? But then they'd pan over to Nico Hülkenberg, and his whole team is like leaping up and down with him, celebrating. I don't know. I suppose the Lando Norris hype is bigger than the Nico Hülkenberg hype, but I genuinely will say I stood up to watch the last 5 or 6 laps of the race, watching Nico Hülkenberg tick off those last few laps.
Oh, it was nerve-wracking, especially with Lewis Hamilton behind him in a car that had been looking pretty good this weekend.
Right,
at all times except in the wet. So I was just my pessimistic mind was just like, man, if only Nico could just hang on to this, but
right,
he's gonna have some real troubles with Lewis Hamilton, right? But lo and behold,
well, I think it's hilarious that I do have some of my notes. Lap 30, I guess it was lap like 30 or so. He was behind Lance Stroll, and finally managed to get the pass like lap 35. And I just wrote down like Hülkenberg at third. Oh man. And then as my notes went on, it was like, a few minutes later, it was like lap 41. Hülkenberg gets the gap down to like 2 seconds, or gets the gap up to 2 seconds between Hamilton behind him. It was like, oh man, oh man, oh man, oh man. And then it went on to like Hülkenberg on slicks, like, I don't know, just stay on the inters. And then, just kept going. And then Hülkenberg put in that fastest lap 45 or so. That's where I was kind of standing up watching the last few laps. Yeah, big win. I think that's it. I mean, they say this all the time in Formula One, and I've enjoyed this, having come to the sport relatively new, and you get to focus on these drivers and battles that are happening further back in the field, to the point that Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri, to me, took a little bit of a side point or a side quest to me, a big story with Nico Hülkenberg. If you watch season after season after season, and you want to see drivers succeed, that's a really big story. And you wouldn't think it would be a driver getting third place on what is considered kind of a bottom tier team, but it's a really cool story.
I like it. I love the story. His first podium was coming. Like, even he said it, a long time coming. And I think if he sticks around for Audi next year, he should have many more. But everybody's always rooted for Nico. He's so likable. He's a great driver. He's never been actually at the wheel of a great car. And when he was gone from the grid for a while, everyone was, or at least I was, sort of sad about that. He came back. Everyone's very happy. He performed well when he came back. I think that if he can stick around, he's one of the greats in my mind. He's just never had the car to do anything like Fernando Alonso's had, like Lewis Hamilton's had, like Max Verstappen has had. Now, I don't want to say that I would just throw him in that category, because he hasn't 100% proven himself. But I do believe that in the right car, that guy, unstoppable.
Yeah.
So
yeah, he's quite good. I did think it was funny. Just speaking of Audi, on a side note, we talked about having comments from people listening, which, again, thanks a lot. We had a comment on one of the shorts we put out specifically around, Max kind of being nice to Antonelli and wondering whether he's sort of padding a spot for himself at Mercedes. Somebody commented that Audi looked promising for Max, and I think, Daniel, you sort of suggested maybe Max might look at Audi, and that might be a good option. But I would suspect most people would still find that to be kind of a long shot.
Long shot, right? Especially Mercedes has a recent data point in their timeline that says new engine regs, we got you. And
yeah,
I think that's the thing that would be a highly influencing factor for Max's choice on his next move.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. Nico Hülkenberg should be at Audi. Lando Norris had a big win. We'll talk about Oscar Piastri in just a second. I do want to throw one more big winner from the race out there. Pierre Gasly. The guy managed to, Colapinto was out real fast out of this race. Alpine is now a solid back of the field team. They're in 10th and pretty firmly in 10th. And Gasly had a great race, just kind of from the beginning. He fought his way back up there. He was in that pack of Stroll, Hülkenberg, Gasly, and Ocon, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th at one point in the race. Just a great opportunity for that entire chunk.
Definitely a winner of this race, or in this weekend, one of them. Stroll had a good weekend. I know we like to sort of act like Stroll shouldn't be in that car, or shouldn't be on the grid, shouldn't all this kind of stuff. He
7th place,
did well, and he was in 3rd at one point. And that was, he was just hadn't pitted, but he was up there and he was hanging on to it, and he hung on to 5th for a while too. So
yeah. There was a comment that it was similar to the Australia Grand Prix, where Stroll, I think, finished 6th. Yeah, finished 6th in that race. And one of the things that I kind of wondered about that and wanted to kind of get your take, they called out Lance Stroll, similar type scenarios, right? Starting relatively far back in the grid, or even all the way at the back of the grid, and then the race and kind of mixed results, and Stroll having this great strategy and coming through the front. I don't want to take anything away from Stroll. I think it does seem like he does pretty well in wet conditions or in changing conditions.
Yeah.
But I'm also curious if drivers like him who do well in changing conditions in mid-tier, kind of midfield teams, if they really benefit from those situations because it opens the door for them in this situation to be pretty gutsy with their strategy, right? Like you don't take this shot if you start in third. You don't do a strange tire strategy. You just
and you don't take it if you're strictly just trying to maximize points and the gap to the next person down on the championship standings for sure. Definitely lower stakes, and so they're able to, I think, gamble a little bit more. Granted, rain is the great equalizer for everybody.
Right.
If the longer you've been, the more times around a track that you've been in a Formula One car, the more you know the limit of that car, the less likely you are to do things like what's happened to most of the grid, right? In the wet. You can talk about
most of the rookies. Yeah.
yeah. But I mean, everybody, rookies notwithstanding, did a few 360s or maybe one or two 720s. But yeah, the rookies were the ones who kind of did it and got caught out doing it. Hadjar, Lawson, Antonelli. I mean, Antonelli more of a passenger in that situation.
Because
Piastri he was ruined by Lawson. Yeah.
If you go down the list, Piastri, when he was trying to catch Lando Norris at the end of the race, he had a pretty bad snap, went off. Verstappen had a big spin.
Verstappen put himself completely out of contention for the podium.
Yeah, I remember seeing Leclerc go way across that field, like snapping around that field and then just driving across, and like maybe two or three other people. George Russell with a full 720, I think, at one point.
Yeah,
was that in qualifying? Maybe I'm mistaken.
Lewis had a few snaps, I think, a few off-track excursions.
Yeah,
if I'm not mistaken, if I'm not thinking,
you
of
throw Fernando Alonso
Mercedes
in that, and that's literally everyone with the highest tenure in the field. So that's I'm sorry, except for Nico Hülkenberg, who seemed to do just fine,
who drove pretty much a perfect race.
Yeah, which I think, to be fair, I do think you have to. If you're going to you have to have really changing conditions like this and drive a perfect race to get in the top 5 in that Sauber, and Nico really made it work for him. That actually does bring up some of our losers. So I think we have to go. And when I say losers, right? Losers for this Grand Prix. They had a hard time with this Grand Prix. The rookies come to the top of mind. I know Liam Lawson, we talked about this before. He's not a rookie. It does seem like he tends to spend more time statistically in that rookie bunch. All the rookies except for Oliver Behrman out in crashes and various DNFs this race.
Although, even though he didn't DNF, Behrman still had a rough race. Penalized, I think, actually. Or maybe at least reviewed for something.
Yeah, not a great race for any rookie.
He made it to Q3 and didn't really hold on to that position.
No, had a tough day for them. I think probably top of the list and the one that's going to be talked about the most. Rough day for Oscar Piastri. Sounds weird saying that, given that he was in second place and looked like he could have potentially clawed back if he'd had maybe another 10 laps, maybe, or some dry conditions. But that one's just going to be a nasty one, and I think rightfully so. Nobody really seemed very comfortable with a 10-second penalty for that infringement. It kind of dealt out so quickly. So yeah, maybe we'll kind of unpack that if you haven't seen the race. Oscar Piastri, kind of an odd situation where the safety car was about to go in, and the way he worded it was he was slowing down to put some space between him and the safety car, knowing that the safety car was going to go lights out. They went lights out, and he didn't accelerate. Everybody else did. So I'm sure that's kind of how you would word it too if you were trying to downplay how much you slammed the brakes on. But
you could see all that escalator intellect playing out in real time as he talked about it in the post-race interview, as he talked about it in the cool-down room. Yeah. He explained it. One thing that was interesting, and I think the commentators called out, was that in the cool-down room with Nico, he was explaining what he did and how it really wasn't what he was penalized for, etc.
Right.
Nico was like, "Oh yeah." And then after the cool-down room conversation, they replayed what Nico had to do in that situation, which was basically what Verstappen did, which was to avoid hitting or avoid a collision by veering to the right really aggressively. I think it all has to do with the fact that maybe he was doing that in that spot for several laps behind the safety car. He just wasn't anticipating the lights to go out at that moment. And because the lights went out at that moment, that put the responsibility on him to drive less erratically. one thing is a safety car and everyone's following the safety car, the pace is being set, etc. Once they go out, even though it's still in front of everybody, that makes number one or whoever's in P1 at the
As a
time
pace setter at that time. Yeah.
to be the safety car, not the virtual safety car. That's a different thing, but
They are virtually the safety car.
virtually he is the safety car.
Right. So kind of his responsibility then to
Yeah, so I think that's why
act normal.
because in Canada, George Russell did the same thing. It wasn't as aggressive. It wasn't from such a high speed down to such a low speed. It wasn't quite as much braking force, etc.
Right. And they were still behind the safety car with the lights on.
The lights were still on. That was the big
and
difference.
That's the distinction. Okay. So with the lights still on, then it's sort of, you can monkey around a little bit, but everybody sort of knows nothing's happening.
Yeah, because think about this. You have some distance to the line where you're forced to go racing. The lead car can play to his own advantage virtually as the safety car. So there's just a little bit more restriction on, hey, you can't get too crazy with this just because you think it's going to help you out on the restart.
Sure.
And I think the conditions also made all the stewards go, whoa, buddy, this is not the time or the place for you to be like pushing at the edge of the envelope. So
right. And when you looked at it from Verstappen's standpoint, that makes a lot of sense. If you're following a car and then all of a sudden the safety car lights go out and all you can see now is spray and mist and you don't have the slightest idea how fast has Oscar gone, right? Is he gone? Is he already disappearing? And I've got to accelerate to catch up. And it happened pretty quickly. So I do kind of understand that. It does seem like it was a relatively harsh penalty though, all things considered. And then I don't know. What was your opinion of that? Did you feel like a 10-second penalty was too harsh?
There have been more harsh penalties, and for less risky things. I don't think, for example, the George Russell cutting the chicane in Monaco was that unsafe. It was anti the spirit of the sport, etc.
Right. It frustrated the stewards, but it wasn't that unsafe.
But he got a worse penalty than just 10 seconds, right?
True.
For that move. I think that the stewards are probably already on edge. What are we, halfway through this race at this point? And it's not the first safety car. There's been virtual safety cars. There's been tons of yellow flags. There's been tons of off-track excursions, tons of debris on the field. We know drivers can't see. The stewards are probably, and to their credit, I know we complain about them a lot sometimes, but to their credit, they probably are genuinely concerned with the safety. If you think about it, they have one job, right? Let's keep everybody safe.
Right.
So the point number 2, restarting after a safety car can be super dangerous. I think it was Imola or one of those Italian races several years ago. There was a huge pileup after the safety car restart because the front of the pack got away and then had to do something, and it created this concertina effect.
I've heard of
coming around the corner, knowing that safety car lights were off or safety car was in, and the rest of the pack was racing, people were coming around this corner towards kind of like the main straight at race speed while something was kind of happening on the main straight that was slowing people down. And it just created this huge crash pileup situation.
Yeah.
And I'm sure the stewards are like, that cannot happen ever again, because that we got off by the skin of our teeth with no serious injuries on that. And that kind of thing is very near and dear to our area of concern.
Okay. All right. So you think it was all safety? So that was going to be like, spoiler alert, that was going to be one of my quick reactions for you. Was this a controversial? I got the feeling from Oscar that he felt that was a harsh penalty that stewards would be likely to deal out at the Great British Grand Prix when you have a great British driver that everyone wants to see win. And like 10-second penalty. Like there's no other options, just a 10-second penalty. And then now you just happen to lose to your rival, but it's still a 1-2 finish. So by quick reaction, do you think that was all safety related, or is there a little, is this 2021 all over again? This is a little conspiracy.
I love
stewards want to see an English driver win.
Quick reaction. I think it was all above board. I think it was
safety.
all safety related. Yeah.
I felt like the stewards lost, like they have a mixer board of buttons for penalties they can deal out. And the whole thing went dark except the 10-second penalty. Because it felt like today, they just threw those around and they hit that one pretty quickly, and all the announcers even were like, "Geez, that's pretty quick."
The thing to support your conspiracy theory is that they could have reviewed this after the race because there wasn't a collision. It was sort of no harm. Who's the victim here, right? Okay, Verstappen had to dodge. Okay, some people backing up had to kind of around. So nothing really happened. No one busted a wing or popped a tire or anything like that. Let's just check it out after the race, and maybe you get a grid penalty down the road. Maybe something else happens. And so to support your conspiracy theory, maybe in the moment they were like, "We got him. Here's our chance. We can let a."
Listen. I just think that it felt very coincidental that later on Tsunoda had a pretty what looked like a pretty minor situation to me, and they just slapped him with the exact same penalty. It was like 10-second penalty. Like it had a very Parks and Rec, like, have you seen Parks and Rec, like the show where they have the guys in from I forget where they're from, but all those guys come, it's like Colombia or someplace like that, and they all come in. I
think it's Venezuela.
Yeah. They just the whole time they every single thing they see that they don't like, they're like, right to jail. So I have it. Right to jail. All right. So Tsunoda just crashes into somebody. Right to 10-second penalty, no matter what you do, and then like Lando Norris 10-second penalty, your pass as well. I was just waiting for them to hit everybody with that, and that felt conspiracy to me. That they just like. Is that a 10-second penalty, or do you want to sort of like blend it all in and make it just look like today you're just dealing out 10-second penalties for everybody? Right to jail.
Straight away. Right away.
Straight away. Right to jail. All right. Well, that's either way. I think Oscar was a little bit of a loser there in the sense that he was doing really well before that. He did really well after that situation. He had a big snap, really desperately trying to catch Lando Norris, but
well, the thing that I thought about most with Oscar Piastri was at the end of the race, he was showing so much emotion in an Oscar Piastri way. And the thing that I was thinking of is how much we've talked about how emotionless he is and how ice cold he is. And you could just see him like he was just grasping for anything in his brain to be like, it just doesn't make sense to me. I don't think I did anything wrong. What, genuinely,
no, he was actually angry. I think that's the first time
angry,
it's been very
and he was
obvious
trying not to show it for sure. He didn't even mention that and I replayed it, so I may not have backed it up enough, but he didn't even mention like "Congrats, Lando." He didn't even say
not a single word. No, I noted that too.
And it seemed like he was pretty frigid when Lando finally made it into the cool down room.
Yeah,
and obviously Lando is just spitting vibes all
best
over
day
the place.
Of his life.
Yeah, he's just he's coming in. He is just like,
best day ever. What's up, Oscar? How was your day?
And Oscar's like, you are the last person I want to talk to. And I don't want to be sitting
which is
here
worse
with a camera
because it's
on us.
Not even Lando's fault. It's not even like Lando had a bad pass on him. It's like, I don't want to see you right now, and it's not even your fault, so I can't be a jerk about it. So
Lando did nothing. Lando just won a race. Lando just won his home race. A home race that I think he probably had a chance to win. I think Lando put a gap between himself and Verstappen Piastri because he knew that those inters were going to go away really fast, and they went away for Max. And I think he was like, I'm going to let them fight it out, and I'm going to save these tires because you never know what can happen. You never know what can happen. I might get a free pit stop. I might not.
Right.
We might just have to go racing. And I'm going to let them get these terrible, terrible tires completely worn out. If it is going to rain in 10 laps, like everyone's saying, like everyone's projecting or predicting, then I'm going to have better inters for longer. And these guys can go, they can boop each other or whatever. But I think that was Lando's strategy. Yeah. And honestly, I don't think he fell away pace-wise because I think he caught up at one point on merit without the penalty. So I think it would have been a race between Lando and Oscar.
Right.
Regardless. So Oscar...
Which would have made it easier for Oscar, right? Because then at least you can 100%. Sort of point to like, you that was dangerous. That was on the edge. Did you cross the line? As it was, it just got kind of taken from him. And then he had to sit in the room with his buddy who was all elated, right? And there's nothing you can say there if you're Lando Norris that like cheers him up, right? Like, oh, that's rough, man.
I felt
that's
worse for Lando
unlucky.
than I felt for Oscar in the cool down room, for sure. And then you got Nico. Nico was in the cool down room like it was just, every day for him. Just
did you see that he forgot his? Did you see that Nico forgot his helmet?
Yeah.
And Lando had to bring it to him?
Yeah, Lando was like, hey, here you go, buddy. And he was like, oh,
hey, you're supposed to bring this. And he's like, oh, okay, yeah.
Also, I love that Nico's helmet was just basically white. I mean, I don't know. I don't know.
He did like a throwback helmet.
If we can get into it now, Nico had no idea he was going to be on the podium at this race.
No,
you could just tell like nothing about what he was doing.
You're right. He would have like gotten a haircut and stuff.
I mean, even down to like to culminate or to like tie it all up in a nice little bow for Nico. He wins one race his whole life, and he's been in this for a long time. He wins one race his whole life, and they hand him the trophy at one of the coolest races of the year. And turns out it's made out of Legos.
It's made out of Legos.
They handed him a plastic trophy, and you could just see the look on his face like,
you got to be kidding me.
Okay, whatever.
Right. Yeah. That whole ending just cracked me up. I actually wrote down a whole bunch of notes about the sort of the epilogue to this race, but just all of Nico, the whole process, him like going over and getting the guys on the wall cheering for him and everything. He forgot to bring his helmet to the cool down room. Was I the only one? Do you watch the podium ceremony on these races? Okay. Yeah. I wanted them to spray Nico more with this champagne. Is that a weird thing to say? Like they didn't spray him very much. And I wanted them to like, cause sometimes they'll really like spray each other. Like they're like having a water fight.
I think had it been a less significant race at a less legendary track, it would have been all about Nico for sure. I think had Oscar not been super
angry.
Yeah, let's just use
come on, buddy,
a pedestrian word like angry.
Spray it, man. Spray your stuff.
Yeah, Oscar. So first of all, we've seen a little bit more of Oscar than we had before. But had it been any other race, regardless of who was 1 or who was 2, I think it would have been all about Nico. And I mean, think about a podium with like Lewis Hamilton and Fernando Alonso and Nico Hülkenberg. Those two would have they would have
absolutely
they really would have
drowned him in champagne. Yeah. I did feel a little bit like there was a bit of a social faux pas there. I know Oscar was mad, but Oscar and Lando, like, come on, buddy, like spray the dude next to you who's never been up here before. But hey, listen, I like you said, I think Lando was having his moment. Nico was over there just drinking his champagne. And then Oscar Piastri was trying so hard not to get sent to his room. It had that feel of like two kids, like, guys, keep it together. Okay. We'll talk about this when we get in the car, but hang in there. All right. Between Oscar having a rough race, I put Max down as having a rough race. He definitely sounded like he was having a rough race. It was entertaining to watch him. For some of the time, fighting his way back up to 5th place. The first like 20 laps of the race felt rough, just watching him kind of drop, not be competitive, not really have any ability to hold those positions. And I think a lot of that came down to his car setup.
Yeah, he had a tiny little wing, which was strategic, but I think it was like only good if it was dry. So
yeah,
he didn't have enough downforce to make up for what you're losing by it being wet. And I think he was taking too much out of the tires to balance that out. And it just wasn't working for him. Granted.
So they did not set up Tsunoda's like that way? It was just
I'm actually not sure. And I think the major difference was just they had the smallest rear wing that they have.
Oh, so, I thought you were saying the major difference between the two of them. And I was like, the major difference between the two of them, Max Verstappen and Tsunoda.
10-second penalty being one of them.
3 or 4 championships difference, but
yeah,
no. Okay, so otherwise they
both.
had.
Who's really watching Tsunoda except for
But can you imagine like Tsunoda, hang in there, buddy. I know that was a little rough race. Hey, listen, Verstappen's going with a super low downforce wing. It's going to be insane, but he's just going to go for it. You want that?
So, hey, Yuki, how's it going? Are you getting the hang of the car? Are you getting it under you a little bit better?
Still hard. You want us to strip it down, make it super fast?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we have an idea.
You'll have less control, but it'll be really quick.
Tell us what you think here. Yeah.
Dude, poor Yuki. I mean, the guy just had another rough race. Again, he just, took a turn a little wide and just right to jail. 10-second penalty for you. Like, he already was back of the pack, and then it was like 10-second penalty.
Yuki finishes the formation lap and gets into the grid box, and suddenly 10-second penalty for Yuki. Like,
yeah, they're like, oh, look at this. Tsunoda's lining up. 10-second penalty under investigation. Why is he even out here? Bless his heart. That poor guy. And I don't mean that in the deep south, bless his heart. Like, I actually mean bless that guy's heart. He's on the struggle bus. And he called himself out last week after Austria. Just like, nope, it's just me. Christian Horner had a really stinging comment where it was like, the car's not that bad, right? Like, the car is rough, but it's not that, like, come on. He's got engineers who are like, we put wheels on the thing. It works. Like, you can go forward. Rough day for Tsunoda. Not a whole lot to say otherwise. Rough day for Mercedes. There were more rough days today than great days today for drivers. I think Mercedes, obviously Racing Bulls. I think technically Ferrari. Everybody, a lot of teams leaving with really mixed, kind of a mixed bag of, okay, Hamilton had a great day. Leclerc was nowhere. He pitted early for Slicks as part of that original group, and then just never really made his way back up again. So kind of a mixed bag for those teams. Mercedes, obviously, with Kimi crashing out or getting rear-ended. Kind of a rough day there. And then same thing for George. He put those slicks on a little early. Lost a massive amount of pace. But
George. Now, speaking of George, he had a little bit of there was a radio interchange between him and the wall. And he was like, I think they only played like the second half of the conversation, but he was like, yeah, going to slicks could be a little bit risky. Is that what we want to do? And I think somebody came back and was like, yeah, we can be risky, just not suicidal.
Not suicidal.
And then next thing you know, he pits for slicks. And then outlap or first true push lap does several just dun, 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 just around and around and around. And the camera went to Toto in his funny little, Silverstone special outfit hat, which
Flat
everybody
cap,
was wearing. And he
Newsies
just
cap, what we call him here in America.
Yeah. Actually,
extra.
If we're among friends here, we've always called him the go to hell hat. I don't know why. I think it's
really
because you expect any old man that's wearing one of those to tell you to go to hell. Anyway, so yeah, that's in my mind that's the go to hell hat. But as soon as that happened to Russell, the camera went to Toto, and he just hung his head. He was just like, "Oh man." But I think it was sort of ill-advised to go that early.
Yeah. It was a little early, and I didn't know what the outcome was. I heard the comment about. I don't know that anybody really heard it. Everybody heard that first comment about not suicidal, and then I never really heard the interchange. He just pitted, and it felt the same as last week when in Austria, where they decided to pit Oscar a little later, so he had longer lasting tires. So they pitted him 4 laps later, and I thought, okay, is 4 laps that big of a?
Right.
Okay. Like, seems like you could run a little longer, but Racing Bulls, bad day for them. Both of them crash out. Leclerc, like we said, just, I don't remember where he was. He drove in the race, I think. I saw him go across a field once. Like, that field, man, people would lose control. And then they were driving off road for like a good 3 seconds to get back on the track.
Yeah, that's the only thing that can explain it is a loss of visibility. But he really was just like, basically a big splash of water hit me right in the face.
Yeah.
And in my mind, when I heard that, I was like, yeah, then and the rest of the race, most of the time, you're just getting blasted with water in the face. But apparently something actually hit him.
Like into his visor. That's what he said, it got into his visor.
Yeah. So maybe like it was enough force that it like got up and under.
Am I the only one that's a little edgy sometimes with my like professional emails where I'll like put a little joke in there and you just like you really wanted his race engineer to be like, it's probably the water. Just, you're going to take some flack. Somebody's going to be like, that was in poor taste, but you're going to be like, come on, that was a solid joke.
Right. I feel like someone from a different team probably said that, probably on the radio.
They heard that and they just ran down the pit walls.
Right.
Like, it's probably the water.
But I feel like it's probably the water comment after the race. Probably tensions were probably high in that conference room. Yeah. So I bet the Ferrari guys were like, don't say it. Don't anyway.
Yeah. What you do is you get in the race, and if he's laughing about it, you're like, it was probably the water. And if he's not, you're like, sorry about that, man. We'll fix that. Don't worry about it. You did go underwater there for a while. And at one point, we checked in and we're like, how you doing? And there was just grass in front of you. So we, for a few minutes, like, where are you at? Like, don't worry, I'll be there. You're just cutting across a field. I think, by the way,
speaking. Go ahead.
I was going to say, by the way, just going back to Monaco and how we fix it. I think we saw some ideas here at Silverstone. Sometimes you could just put an off-road portion and be like, if you want to risk the floor, knock yourself out,
Right. Right.
Just jump right across.
Maybe you know what drains really well is the gravel. So if you want to get off this water for a minute, if you want to avoid hydroplaning,
if you stop entirely, you will be beached, but you can try it.
Yeah.
It'd be a fun.
So I just wanted to say, yes, Leclerc performed poorly in the race, but in qualifying, he was right there behind. I mean, there was a very tight gap between 1 through 7-ish.
Yeah. It was a fun qualifying round.
And then, Max put his last hot lap in Q3 and just blew everybody away somehow.
Yep.
Again, he probably just knows how to get the most out of a low downforce or lower drag car, lower drag Red Bull. But him being whatever that was, 0.2 away from everybody, and everybody else just kind of being like a 10th or a 10th and a half from the next person. Charles and Lewis both did relatively well. I mean, I think their gap was in Q3 300s. Or sorry, 300s-ish, less than 300s. So weird to see that in the race. I think it was just circumstances. I think he probably regrets doing the slicks. Yeah.
Yep. Some got hit hard. Some pulled it off. And, it felt like an entire race of that. The front 2 or 3, I guess, really just the McLarens and Lewis Hamilton felt pretty consistent. Everyone else was all over the map, right? If you look down that list, Lando Norris, Oscar Piastri, and Lewis Hamilton are the only people really in that top 10 that you're like, yeah, they belong there. Nico Hülkenberg came out of the blue. Max Verstappen, how did he fall to 5th? Or how did he even get to 5th? Like, I'm not clear. At one point, he started on pole. Later on, he slipped off the road and came back in at 10th and was literally fighting with the Williams.
Well, some of the what I would say there is, I don't know. I mean, and this is something that the commentators, I think Alex Jakes and David Coulthard were saying, was back in the restart at Spain, he was just freaking out over the injustice, right? Leclerc hit him on the straight, and then Russell had kind of a long shot, late break, kind of come up the inside and forced him out wide, and he was just fuming, right? So I think maybe that might be a weakness of Max's, in that he thought that there was an injustice from Piastri braking hard and causing him to do what he was doing, and he's like, oh no, I'm going to get penalized for something that I couldn't control. Right. Russell did it to me in Canada. It was this whole thing, and now it's going to be a whole thing again. And
he's like still trying to fight that battle and missing his apex.
He got distracted. I think it got to him, and he spun a little bit. Actually, was it a complete spin, or was it just a kind of a sideways snap?
Sideways.
And then,
but it was just such a gentle drift. He couldn't pull out of it fast enough, and ended up falling, I think, down to 9th or 10th, right between the Williams. So and he was lucky he didn't fall behind both the Williams. But everybody else at the top 10, kind of surprised they're there, right? Gasly, Stroll, Albon, Alonso, Russell. That order is definitely strange. And that seemed to be, at one point, somebody even commented, like, Fernando Alonso is having a really strong race. He's just kind of walking his way up here. And then meanwhile, just Charles Leclerc, Carlos Sainz, arguably all the rookies that fell out, just couldn't pull that strategy together. So a lot of losers, I think, from this race, or at least there will be a lot of people, I think, going back home tonight, or already home tonight, I guess, depending on what time you're listening to this, that are, kind of kicking themselves a little bit, frustrated at that strategy and how it all kind of fell out. But, man, that was a really fun race. I had a lot of time. I will say there were so many safety cars. It gave me just a few minutes to look at the liveries. I don't know if you paid any attention to some of the different liveries and so forth. Yep. So that's as we move into quick reaction time, unless you had other content to discuss, I was going to throw first reaction at you. Best special livery, Racing Bulls, Mercedes, or McLaren? So Racing
quick
Bulls had that.
Racing Bulls. I loved that like that graffiti vibe. It's maybe I'm identifying myself too much. But growing up, I always thought graffiti was cool. Criminality.
It was a good livery. Yeah, it was a strong one. It was sad to see it crash out, but
it's too bad. Yeah, but honestly, it was one of the shirts that I saw in the garage that I was like, I think I might want to get online and buy that shirt if there's any special editions available, because that's a pretty cool, like, that color combination, and then the just kind of the hand drawn, whatever that is. Was that a famous artist or a famous graffiti artist that was responsible for that, or was that just in general, like, hey, this is the vibe we're going for?
I don't know, actually. I don't know much about the actual livery itself. I just thought it was a pretty slick livery. I also like the graffiti vibes, although I kind of expect them at Miami or at Las Vegas or someplace like that. But fun to see somebody grab them for Silverstone. So
Yeah. So, and the one thing that penalizes McLaren a little bit is just all like those. Like I know Google is a sponsor. I'm sure Google can write the fattest check out of all of them. It's just those primary colors just like don't really do it for me. Now I think it's cool that they went chrome. Like that was kind of a throwback to like what was it like '08 when they probably
back at Lewis Hamilton's
yeah.
big run.
I'm sort of on that and like it kind of goes with the vibe of the Google browser because it's called Chrome. Oh, okay, cool.
Right. Although that's
I
never
don't
been
know.
an aspect of Chrome to my knowledge.
Right.
It didn't do it for me. I wanted to like it because I love Chrome and I love white cars. I like it. So maybe that's why I like the racing bulls are always going to impress me this year. But
yeah,
I wanted the Chrome to work. And I just, for some reason, there was something about it that kind of clashed with the rest of the car.
I felt like they could probably take a note from us Americans here, and instead of chrome, just straight up paint on the body, just some chrome accents. Maybe some like some like Nerf
XLT
tubes,
version,
Nerf bars. Yeah. What are they called? Yeah, I think they're called Nerf bars on the side. Maybe some of the fenders could be chrome.
Rails.
Maybe I know that they don't have to open a door to get in the car, but like, is there like a handle somewhere that they could chrome out a little bit?
Yeah, just put a little wing mirrors. Yeah.
Yeah, or the rims. I think the rims could be chrome. How about that?
I mean, this goes back to you that you're not a big fan of these hubcaps, but I thought the Racing Bulls was also best. I didn't like the Mercedes. I wanted to like it. I love the idea of having those stars different color, but
what was the motif behind the red stars? Because I feel like they've done that for like Niki Lauda. They had a couple of years. They had the one red Mercedes badge.
Right.
They may still have that. I didn't understand the meaning. And maybe it was the lighting of the day, but as the car went around the track, it seemed way more maroon to me than just a good red. So
I think it was. It was orange. It wasn't red.
Oh.
And that's what bugged me about it was I thought like that's cool, but you got too much going on here now. You're like gray and silver and orange and green and you got that like mint green going on.
And you're wearing go to hell hats in the garage. I mean, I don't even know.
I've never heard.
Everybody had one, by the way. Also,
silver,
speaking
black, and
of
orange.
Garage,
quick
reaction. Did you not quick reaction necessarily? Maybe just tell me what you think or what the reason for this is. All the celebrities that the camera panned to early on in the race, they're all wearing sunglasses. They're indoors. It's super cloudy outside and raining. I think there were people in the Mercedes garage, the Ferrari garage, the McLaren. But every time they showed a famous person, as they do in sort of the slow parts of the race, so like let's just say like first virtual safety car or whatever, they're like, nothing's happening, so let's see who's here. And so they're showing all these different people. These celebrities were almost all of them just straight up had their sunglasses on indoors while they're watching, quote unquote, I guess, whatever's playing out in the garage. I mean, these are people that have access to the garage. This isn't Paddock Club. This isn't like up on the balcony. This is inside with the headset on, a few rows behind, Toto or whoever's back there, inside, not pit wall, but like garage. And they're all wearing sunglasses. So what's the deal? Is the party that good at Silverstone the night before that the next day you got to keep the...
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. That's what I was wondering. What's legal there that's not legal almost?
Is there just like a thing in PR where they're like, hey, by the way, you never know when the camera's going to be coming, panning over to you.
Sure.
You want to look good, just keep those shades on.
You got me. I don't know. Maybe the F1 movie, a little bit more kind of some hype kind of hanging on there. I don't know. Maybe Daniel, this is I recently installed some new lights in my garage, and it was recommended by a good friend of mine who put these really cool. They look like little miniature fans, like ceiling fans, but they're LED lights that are really bright. Now, my buddy got the 15,000 lumen ones and said that even with the door open and the sunshine out, it was like staring at the face of the sun in his garage. So he's like, don't get those. But I got like the 8,000 lumen ones, and it'll light it up. Like you can see through aluminum with those lights on. So they're bright.
You'll be loomed all the way up.
Yeah, maybe
you'll be looming in your sleep. Is what you're saying.
I like that phrase. Like we are loomed all up. Maybe it was just really bright, and they needed sunglasses. Like the blue light from monitors hurting their eyes. I don't know.
Okay.
You got me.
I could see that.
By the way, you were
pretty decent explanation.
You were asking why there was orange stars on the Mercedes. The answer is they have an orange car they're trying to sell, I think is the short version of it. So, yeah, that's
not
about
a,
it.
not a
They
green
like
car,
orange.
not like an environmentally friendly car, like an orange paint, like an orange colored car.
I think have we settled yet that the color of the car is not influential to, but I don't know. I think they're just now they are rebranding their company to an energy company. I don't know. I don't know why it was orange. It kind of gives off vibes of. Do you remember the quote unquote? Oh shoot, what's his name? The dun, 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 Indiana Jones. Do you remember the Indiana Jones themed Alpine? Do you like that I had to like sing the song to remember what Indiana Jones' name was? It gives off the vibes of the 2024 Indiana Jones themed Alpine.
Was that for Vegas? What was that for?
Yeah. It's basically denim McLaren.
Yeah. What?
Yeah.
Denim McLaren?
Denim McLaren. Yeah. Like everybody literally was just like, are you trying to get Oscar Piastri to come back to Alpine? You're like, look, we have an orange
McLaren
car.
Sounds like the name of the oldest pitcher in the minor leagues that everyone actually goes to see minor league games to watch pitch. You know, like, and on the mound, we've got Denham McLaren, the 37-year-old left-hander who can still somehow pitch a 100-mile-an-hour fastball.
That is such a baseball name. It gives off vibes of that. Like everybody just wants a little piece of that papaya. What they should have said is that it was papaya, and that would have driven their fans nuts. All right, so that was my quick reaction for you on those liveries. Side note, I also like the little some of Lando Norris's loops on his helmet were like Great Britain flag themed and stuff like that.
Well, and the hat he was wearing basically all weekend, but you would see it during like media stints. Was kind of like a derived form of the British flag of Union Jack.
Yeah, we is stylish. It
was pretty cool. I don't know if I'd wear that hat. I would own that hat, but I don't know if I'd wear it.
Watching or like if you wore it, you'd like really have to hype yourself up for it and be like,
I'd have to like lean into the British accent. I'd have to do some practicing. I'd have to. I'd have to watch a lot of Downton Abbey. You know?
Yeah, same with Total Wolf's newsy hat, right? Like I got to kind of work myself up to this. No, I agree with you. I do feel like watching those guys walk around the paddock. It's like the home shopping network now for middle-aged males being like, can I pull that hat off? Can I wear jeans that baggy? I don't think I can. But you know,
man, F1 has worked on so many levels, and it's finally working on us. We are finally being influenced by the product placement.
That's right. I want some of them baggy jeans.
Yeah,
you got a quick reaction for me today, Daniel?
Did you notice? Did you notice? Okay, so you know how the track has these distance markers, right? Before every turn, it's like 300 meters.
Breaking points.
200 meters, 150 meters.
Break now.
All the way down.
Hurry.
Yeah. In case you've forgotten to brake.
They just draw a little like water symbols on them. Like if it's wet, this is the one you stop at.
A little line through the gas pedal. Like, is there a symbol for gas pedal? Like, no gas at this point.
Yeah, there's like Tsunoda, brake here. Go ahead. Sorry, too soon. Jeez.
Right to jail. So on the back of these markers, this is a money business, right? This is showbiz. Nothing goes unmonetized. So the back of these distance markers has sponsorships, right?
No, I didn't notice that.
Is that my quick reaction? All of the usual suspects, but some of these just have on the other side, it's just a black paint and the F1 logo. To me, the ones that had F1 on them looked like Legos. There was something going on the top of these markers that made it look like Legos. So, and this was before I knew. This was before I knew.
Eagle-eyed viewers have seen this. No,
maybe the legendary Chris P can find us an image of this. I don't know. I haven't tried to search, and I even was then noticing all the other markers throughout the race for the rest of the race. By the way. And these are the ones, by the way, you see the drivers like plow through them sometimes when they go off track and they just like explode because they're actually just foam.
Yeah.
They're supposed to just kind of be like super benign.
They always call them like styrofoam. It's like always like a weird British word for foam. Like we just call it styrofoam.
Every country, by the way,
pyrophene.
Every country. It's a little known fact. Every country, regardless of what language they speak, they have a different name for foam. Styrofoam. Americans call it styrofoam, right?
Yeah. And for like plastic wrap or like clear plastic cellophane or stuff like that.
Also, this is a nerd fact that no one should know or no one would know. Beyond
the fact that you noticed the Lego shape of the braking points. Okay, go ahead.
Let me level down. Let me drill down for you here a little bit.
Dumb it down for me.
Ineos, one of the main sponsors for the Mercedes AMG Petronas team.
5-legged like lion thing.
No, that's Eni. E-N-I. Ineos.
Sorry,
I-N-E-O-S.
my mistake. Go ahead. Yep.
They produce the Grenadier, which is kind of the rebirthed Land Rover Defender. Are you familiar?
Sure.
So aside from the fact that they have a car assembly
very non-committal for
plant in France that makes a British car, they are also just like this huge industrial conglomerate that makes, I don't know, they refine all kind of chemicals or whatever. They make styrene. They have one of their many business lines or business units is styrene, which I think is one of the main ingredients or is the main ingredient for foam. So they are literally woven into the fabric of every single F1 race.
I bet that's literally their tagline on their website. We are woven into the fabric.
Yeah.
No, I didn't notice that. I also, just for the viewers out there, this is how highly technical we are. I am madly trying to Google what you've just said, Daniel, about Lego-shaped signs. Oh, I don't know how you Google that. Like, I'm literally like Lego
Listen,
F1
I had to
signs
Google,
at the
like,
brace
what do you
on the
even
track.
call these things until I realized, like, oh, they're just the distance marker. Because I was like, bollard, I've heard bollard, but bollard is like a post. It's like a like something that marks like the apex of a chicane.
But it won't help. David Coulthard will call him something that no one's ever called them except like Scottish people. Like, he's run over the. I can't mock a Scottish accent. I can't even do his Scottish accent even if I wanted to. I just sound like Mel Gibson trying to be David Coulthard. All right, I've got one last quick reaction for you. You've seen the F1 movie, yes?
I have indeed.
Okay. We could probably do an entire episode about it. We're not because
we will.
We won't. The gentle listeners.
Okay.
I mean, not right now. Not right now. Gentle listeners are ready to wrap it up. But I will ask you. You're gonna have to take a second to kind of chew on this one. You know how they're constantly asking idiotic questions of the F1 drivers. Typically in the little pre-show, nothing's happening Thursday. They're out there doing interviews, and they just ask them these dumb questions like, "What'd you do on your holiday?" or like things like that. What is the dumbest question you could ask based on the F1 movie of a driver that would just set them off? Like we joked last week. Like, what if somebody was like, Carlos, did you stall on the grid so that you could keep your tires hottest after the formation lap or whatever?
Yeah. Was that the Sonny Hayes strategy, Carlos?
Yeah. What's the question that someone's going to come up and be like, hey, so I saw the F1 movie, and they're going to throw a question at the driver. And they're going to be like, are you kidding me? This is just a movie.
Yeah.
What scene from that jumps out at you is like,
so the scene that jumps out at me is just the whole like let's get a safety car, kind of just let's go shopping for a safety car. How do you do it? Well, you just got to get a little debris on the track. You never really know what's actually going to happen. You never really know what the stewards want for the marshals or whoever's on the track that goes off and brings it off.
Right.
This whole like you think you can just like manipulate the outcome of a race by drawing out a safety car because you're like, oh, whoopsie, I broke. Right. If you have only it were that easy.
You at least have to have a sister team like Racing Bulls to help you out.
Right. Now, I think maybe the worst question you could ask is, hey, Stroll, in the movie, they substituted Sonny Hayes right before the race started. They just like Abu Dhabi. They put him right in. So like, why couldn't your car race in the race? You have reserve drivers, you have backups.
Right.
So that was to me, that was like the one rule in the movie that they broke. Is that
that's a little bit like
a
Tony
rule that
Stark
we've all seen, kind of play out before the movie. In fact,
Iron Man, like, go ahead.
I'm surprised that the Stroll weekend where he did not DNS, right? He did not start. I'm surprised they didn't try to go in and like rewrite the script or do like a little post edit to explain. Like movies have to kind of explain, and this happened a lot in the I thought explain a little bit of like why that rule wouldn't apply in this case or how they got around it or whatever.
Yeah. I thought you were. I don't know. I thought it was generally pretty good on the rules. They explained formation laps. They did just skip all of qualifying. They just kind of mentioned it as a side note. But there's not
qualifying.
They crammed
so
a ton
exciting.
into the movies. I feel like they can't do it. I do think that would be the one that would set off Formula One drivers. Though, is go to the next press interview and say, "Hey, so have you ever ripped your front wing off to get a safety car?" And they'd be like, "No." Like, you're kidding, right?
Really?
Yeah. Have you ever popped your tire on purpose? Like, that usually will just put you into a wall. Like, you can't pop a tire and then just like, limp home. It's not like driving on the highway in your, Toyota Camry. All right. Well, that's probably it. You got any more quick reactions for me before we wrap up this episode?
No, I mean, I will back up to the Lego shaped distance marker. I saw that before I saw that the trophies are made out of Legos. So quick reaction for you. Did you notice that the trophies were made out of Legos? When
they called it out that Lando Norris' second trophy was Legos. They gave him a real one and a Lego one. So I kind of assumed that there was some Lego stuff going on, but I didn't pay that much attention when Nico got his. I assumed they didn't give him a real trophy.
They gave Lando a real trophy because that trophy gets like the name inscribed on it. It's like the trophy.
Oh, really? That's like the trophy.
But I think the keep trophy
is a Lego one.
Which again, I'm sorry, Nico. You deserve a better trophy than
I'm
a Lego
gonna look
trophy.
at. Surely it looks like Legos, but it's not really Legos. How much do you have to pay F1 to give out actual Lego trophies?
Yeah, I mean, another question is: are any of the trophies made of plastic?
Another question is, how much are F1 fans going to pay for the Lego set that allows them to have the F1 trophy from like Monaco?
Ooh.
I'm going to say somewhere in the neighborhood of $450. Oh, I thought we were going to name prices. And on that quick note, it's probably time to wrap up. Fantastic race. We are officially halfway through the season. Or we still have half the season to go, depending on if
we have half the season to go, and there are 8 points between the championship leader and the number 2.
Which is, nobody
cares about the constructors anymore. I would just say McLaren's got that one almost sewn up.
Yeah.
But
you never know. Probably. And also, don't look now. Kick Sauber is in 6th place in the Constructors' Championship. And as the old Jeremy Clarkson used to say, on that bombshell, it's time to end. Thank you for joining us on the Critical Lap. We appreciate you listening. Please add a comment, throw a note in. Let us know. What's going on.
If we're saying any nonsense, please.
Yeah, well, don't do that. We don't love criticism. Maybe just compliments.
Yeah, the Critical Lap is very averse to criticism.
Yeah, any criticism. We just like very thin skin.
We should change our name to the Complimentary Lap.
Yeah. Did you notice that the sign bollard things are Lego shaped? But hey, thanks for listening.
Or is that a figment of Daniel's imagination?
Probably. It's probably just like the way they're built. I don't know. Hey, thanks for listening. Please share with friends. Add a comment on there. And thanks as always to the legendary producer on the pit wall, Chris P.
Thank you, Chris.
And we will see you in a week's time at Spa and for the review of that.
Later.
See you next time.